The champagne glass shattered against the deck. Elena Carter watched it fall. Then she felt her husband's hands on her shoulders. Cold, firm, final. "Vivian is waiting for me," Blake said. His voice was empty, dead. "You're just in the way." Then he pushed. The ocean swallowed her whole, 4 months pregnant, weighted jewelry dragging her down like anchors. Her husband's silhouette above the water, growing distant, leaving her to drown. But Elena Carter didn't die that night. She survived. She hid. She rebuilt her entire life from nothing. And 8 years later, she came back. Not for revenge, for justice. This is the true story of how a millionaire tried to murder his pregnant wife for insurance money. How he almost got away with it. And how the woman everyone thought was dead destroyed him from beyond the grave. What happened next shocked everyone, including his new wife, who didn't realize she was next on his list. Stay with me, because this story gets darker. And then it gets better. Much better. The champagne bubbled in the crystal flutes as the yacht rocked gently against the dock. Elena Carter placed one hand on her barely visible belly and smiled at her husband. 4 months pregnant, finally. After 3 years of trying, their miracle was happening. "Ready, sweetheart?" Blake asked. His voice was smooth, practiced. The same voice that had won her over 7 years ago at that charity gala. Elena nodded. She picked up her phone from the bench. Locked it, unlocked it, checked for messages. Nothing important. Locked it again. Unlocked it. Blake's last text from this morning stared back at her. "Tonight changes everything." She'd read it 20 times already. Locked. Unlocked. Locked. "Elena, leave the phone," Blake said. "This is our night. Just us. No distractions." She set it down. Her stomach churned. Not morning sickness. Something else. Something she couldn't name. The yacht pulled away from the marina. The sun hung low over the Pacific Ocean. Orange and pink streaked across the sky like watercolor paint bleeding across canvas. Beautiful. Perfect. Too perfect. Blake handed her a glass. "To new beginnings," he said. They clinked glasses. The crystal rang out. A clear, pure note that hung in the salt air. Elena sipped. The bubbles tickled her nose. She watched Blake over the rim. He smiled at her. That smile, the one that made her say yes to their first date, yes to his proposal on that beach in Maui, yes to the prenuptial agreement he'd called a romantic vow renewal on their 3rd anniversary. "I got you something," Blake said. He pulled out a velvet box. Elena's heart skipped. "Blake, you didn't have to open it." Inside lay a delicate gold anklet. Tiny charms dangled from it. A heart, a star, a crescent moon, each one heavier than it looked. "It's beautiful," she said. "Let me." Blake knelt. He fastened it around her ankle. His fingers lingered. "An early push present. You're going to be an amazing mother." The anklet felt strange, heavy, but Elena pushed the feeling aside. She was being paranoid. The pregnancy hormones made everything feel wrong lately. The yacht cut through the water. They moved farther from shore. The coastline became a distant line of lights beginning to blink on in the dusk. "I've been thinking about the baby," Blake said. He stared out at the horizon, not at her. "About our future." "Me too, every day." Elena moved closer. She wanted to feel his warmth, his solid presence. But he stepped away, subtle, casual, like he was just shifting his weight. "Things are going to change," V said. "I know. Good changes." Elena tried to sound bright, cheerful, the way Blake liked her to be. "Are they?" He turned. His face looked different in the fading light. Harder, colder. "Do you know how much life insurance you're worth, Elena?" The question struck like a slap. "What?" $3 million. "I made sure of it last week when you signed those papers." His voice was flat, emotionless. "You didn't even read them, did you? You never do. You just sign whatever I put in front of you." Elena's champagne glass slipped. It fell. The crystal shattered against the deck. Sharp pieces scattered across the polished wood. The sound echoed wrong. Too loud. Too final. "Blake, what are you? You were supposed to be easy, Elena. Grateful. The daughter of a bankrupt real estate investor desperate to save her family. You married up. You should have been happy with what I gave you. Her legs felt weak. I don't understand. Of course you don't. Blake moved toward her. His footsteps crunched on broken glass. You never understood anything. That's what made you perfect. Beautiful. Empty. Trusting. Stop it. You're scaring me. Good. His hand shot out. He grabbed her wrist, hard, bruising. You should be scared. Elena tried to pull away. Her heel caught on something. The weighted anklet dragged at her foot. She stumbled backward. Her hip hit the railing. Blake, please. Vivian is waiting for me, he said. His grip tightened. She's smart, ambitious, everything you're not. And she doesn't cry every time I touch her. The name hit Elena like ice water. Vivian Cross, his secretary, the one with the cold smile and designer clothes Elena could never quite afford even with Blake's money. The one who always seemed to be there, in their home office, at dinner meetings, standing too close. You're having an affair. The words came out hollow, distant, like someone else was speaking. I'm having a future. Blake's other hand moved to her shoulder. You're just in the way. Everything happened in slow motion. His hands pushed, both of them, hard, against her shoulders. Elena felt the railing press into her back. Then nothing. Air. She was falling. The water rushed up to meet her. The impact knocked the air from her lungs. Cold. So cold. The ocean swallowed her whole. Darkness everywhere. Her evening dress billowed around her. The silk-trapped water pulled her down. Elena kicked, tried to swim up, but the anklet dragged at her foot like an anchor. Down, down. The charms weren't decorative, they were weights, lead weights disguised as gifts. Her lungs screamed for air. She clawed at the anklet. Her fingers couldn't find the clasp. Too small, too tight. Her vision blurred. Red dots appeared at the edges. Above her, through meters of dark water, she saw the yacht's lights, moving, growing distant. Blake wasn't stopping, wasn't turning back. He was leaving her here to drown. The truth crystallized in her oxygen-starved brain. He'd planned this, the romantic cruise, the champagne, the weighted jewelry, the insurance policy she'd signed without reading, all of it, every detail. He'd been planning to kill her. Her fingers found the clasp. She pulled, twisted. The metal cut into her palm. Blood bloomed dark in the water. The clasp broke. The anklet slipped free. It tumbled down into the darkness below. Elena kicked, hard, her dress tangled around her legs. She couldn't move fast enough. Her lungs burned. They demanded air. Her body wanted to breathe, to open her mouth and pull in whatever was there. Not yet. Not yet. Fight. She kicked harder. The surface seemed impossibly far away. Her arms moved through the water, stroke after stroke. Her muscles screamed. Everything hurt. But she kept moving, up, up. Her head broke the surface. She gasped. Air filled her lungs, sweet, burning, painful. She coughed, choked, breathed again. The yacht was gone. Just dark water all around her. The shore was a distant shimmer of lights. Miles away, too far. She couldn't swim that far. Not in this dress, not pregnant, not after almost drowning. A current tugged at her, strong, pulling her south along the coast, away from the marina, away from everything familiar. Elena floated on her back. She tried to conserve energy. The sky above her darkened from purple to black. Stars appeared, cold and distant and uncaring. Blake had pushed her off a yacht. Her husband, the father of her unborn child. He'd looked her in the eye and pushed her into the ocean to die. The shock kept her numb, kept her moving, kept her alive when she should have given up. Her body moved on instinct, survival. The current carried her. She didn't fight it. She just tried to stay afloat. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time lost meaning, cold, dark, alone. The only sounds were waves and her own breathing, harsh, desperate, determined. Something brushed her leg. She jerked away. Her heart hammered. Shark. Had to be a shark. But nothing came. Just water. Just darkness. Just the endless ocean trying to pull her under. Her arms grew heavy. Her legs stopped kicking as much. The cold seeped into her bones. Hypothermia. She knew the signs. Confusion. Fatigue. The urge to just close her eyes and rest. Not yet, not yet. The baby. She had to think about the baby. But maybe Blake had won. Maybe this was how it ended. Drowned in the Pacific Ocean. A tragic boating accident. The grieving widower collecting his insurance money. Marrying his mistress. Living the life he wanted without the burden of a wife he'd never loved. Elena's eyes drifted closed, just for a moment, just to rest. The wave hit her face. Salt water filled her mouth. She choked, sputtered. Her eyes flew open. Still alive. Still fighting. Whether she wanted to or not. The sky began to lighten. Gray, then pink. Dawn. Elena had been in the water all night. She shouldn't be alive. But somehow she was. The current pushed her towards something. A beach, rocky and isolated. No buildings, no people. Just sand and cliffs and the sound of waves breaking on shore. Her feet touched bottom. She stumbled forward, upon, fell, crawled. The sand scraped her palms, her knees. She dragged herself up the beach, away from the water, away from the ocean that had tried to claim her. She collapsed on dry sand. Her body shook. Cold, shock, exhaustion. She curled on her side. One hand moved to her belly, still there, still round, still holding the tiny life that had kept her fighting. Please, she whispered to the baby, to God, to anyone listening, please let us survive this. The sun rose higher, warm on her skin. Lena closed her eyes. She'd made it through the night. But now what? The dog's barking woke her. Elena's eyes cracked open. Bright, too bright. She tried to move. Pain shot through every muscle. Her body screamed in protest. Oh my God! Henry, come here. Good boy. Stay. Footsteps crunched on sand. Elena tried to focus. A woman. Older. Gray hair pulled back. Wearing a thick sweater and jeans. A golden retriever stood beside her. The dog whined and pulled toward Elena. Don't move, honey. You're hurt. The woman knelt beside her. Gentle hands touched Elena's neck, checking for a pulse. Can you hear me? Elena's throat burned. Water, she croaked. I've got water at my cottage. Can you stand? It's just up the hill. The woman looked around, her face creased with worry. Is there anyone else? Anyone who was with you? Blake, the yacht, the push, it all came flooding back. Elena's stomach lurched. She rolled to her side and retched. Nothing came up but seawater and bile. Easy, easy. The woman rubbed her back. I'm Grace Mitchell. I live just up there. Let's get you warm and dry. Then we'll figure out what happened. With Grace's help, Elena stood. Her legs trembled. The wet dress clung to her body. Every step hurt. But she walked, one foot in front of the other, up a narrow path cut into the cliff. The dog stayed close, a warm, solid presence. Grace's cottage sat hidden among cypress trees. Small, weathered, but sturdy. Smoke drifted from the chimney. The windows glowed with warm light. Inside smelled like coffee and wood smoke. Grace guided Elena to a chair near the fireplace. She wrapped a blanket around Elena's shoulders. Then another. The warmth hurt. Pins and needles everywhere as feeling returned. I'm going to check you for injuries, Grace said. I'm a retired nurse. 20 years in the ER before I moved out here to get away from everything. Elena nodded. She couldn't speak yet, couldn't process what had happened. Her mind felt fuzzy, distant. Grace's hands were professional, efficient. She checked Elena's pupils, her reflexes, listened to her heart. You're hypothermic, probably mildly dehydrated, bruising on your wrists and shoulders, but nothing broken that I can tell. The baby? 4 months. Elena's hand moved to her belly. I haven't felt movement yet. It's too early. We need to get you to a hospital, get you checked out properly. No, the word came out sharp, urgent. No hospital, no police. No one can know I'm here. Grace sat back. Her weathered face studied Elena. She'd seen things in her years as an emergency room nurse. She knew what it looked like when someone was running, hiding. All right, Grace said slowly, but you're going to tell me what happened. Because you washed up on my beach looking like you nearly drowned. And those bruises on your wrists? Those are finger marks. Someone hurt you. Elena's eyes filled with tears. They spilled over, hot trails down her salt-crusted cheeks. My husband tried to kill me. The words hung in the air. Terrible. True. Undeniable. Grace didn't flinch, didn't question. She just nodded. Then we keep you hidden. I've helped women disappear before. Women running from men who hurt them. I can help you too. For 3 days, Elena stayed in Grace's cottage. She slept. She ate soup and toast. She slowly came back to herself. Grace didn't have a phone, didn't have internet. She lived deliberately off the grid after her own husband had died in a car accident 15 years ago. Peace and quiet, Grace explained. Just me and Henry and the ocean. I get groceries once a week in town, pay cash. Nobody bothers me way out here. On the third morning, Grace returned from town with a newspaper. She set it on the table without a word. Her face was grim. Elena picked it up. The headline made her blood freeze. Millionaire's pregnant wife lost at sea. Tragic boating accident claims local socialite. Her own face stared back at her from the front page. A photo from their last Christmas party. She was smiling, wearing the diamond necklace Blake had given her, looking happy and in love and completely unaware her husband was planning to murder her. The article described Blake as devastated, heartbroken. He'd reported the accident immediately. Coast Guard had searched all night. No body recovered. Presumed drowned. Memorial service planned for next week. Elena's hands shook. He did it. He really did it. There's more, Grace said quietly. She pointed to a paragraph near the end. Carter's attorney confirmed that Mrs. Carter carried a substantial life insurance policy. Mr. Carter has stated he will donate the funds to marine conservation in his late wife's memory. $3 million. He'd mentioned that number just before he pushed her. $3 million for her life, for their baby's life. Just money. That's all she'd been worth to him. He's going to get away with it, Elena whispered. He tried to kill me. He tried to kill our baby. And everyone thinks it was an accident. Not everyone. Grace tapped another article. Smaller. Bottom of the page. Detective questions circumstances of tragedy. The article quoted Detective Marcus Shaw. He'd been at the scene when Blake reported Elena missing. Something about Blake's story didn't add up. The weather had been calm. Elena was a strong swimmer. The yacht had no signs of damage. Shaw had asked to interview Blake again. Blake's lawyer had declined. There's one person who doesn't believe it, Grace said. That's something. Elena read the article 3 times. Detective Marcus Shaw, he knew. Maybe not everything, but enough to question, enough to keep looking. I can't come forward, Elena said. If Blake knows I'm alive, he'll find me. He'll finish what he started. Then we make sure he thinks you're dead. Grace poured coffee into 2 mugs. She handed one to Elena. You rest. You heal. You have that baby. And when you're strong enough, you decide what happens next. Elena wrapped her hands around the warm mug. The heat seeped into her palms. Real. Solid. Alive. That night she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the water closing over her head, felt Blake's hands pushing her, heard his voice saying Vivian's name. She got up, walked to the window. The ocean stretched out black and endless under the stars. Somewhere out there, Blake was sleeping in their bed, maybe with Vivian beside him already, planning his next move, his new life, built on Elena's death. God, I was so stupid, she thought. The signs were all there, the way he'd isolated her from friends, from family. Always saying they didn't understand him, didn't understand their relationship, making her choose, making her prove her loyalty. The business trips that got longer, the phone calls he took in other rooms, the smell of perfume that wasn't hers on his shirts. She'd asked once, he'd said she was paranoid, hormonal, crazy. I'm not crazy, she said aloud to her reflection in the dark glass. I know what I saw. I know what he did. The validation felt important, necessary, like staking a claim to her own reality after Blake had spent years telling her she couldn't trust her own perceptions. Behind her, Grace appeared in the doorway. Can't sleep? Every time I close my eyes, I'm drowning. That'll last a while, maybe a long while. Grace joined her at the window. But you're not drowning now. You're here. You're breathing. You survived. For how long? Elena touched her belly. The small swell was more pronounced now. Soon she wouldn't be able to hide it. What happens when the baby comes? I can't exactly walk into a hospital as a dead woman. We'll figure it out, one day at a time. Grace squeezed her shoulder. You're stronger than you know, Elena. You made it through that ocean. You'll make it through this too. Elena wanted to believe her, but doubt gnawed at her stomach. She wasn't strong. Strong women didn't let their husbands isolate them, didn't sign papers without reading them, didn't ignore the warning signs until it was almost too late. I need to know, Elena said. I need to know if he's done this before, if Vivian knew, if anyone else was involved. Grace has an old laptop, spotty internet connection from the library in town when the wind blows right, but it works sometimes. Can I use it? Tomorrow. Tonight you need rest. But Elena didn't rest. She lay in the small guest room Grace had given her. The ocean whispered through the open window. Not threatening now, just there. Constant, infinite, uncaring whether she lived or died. Blake had chosen Vivian, his secretary, his accomplice, his future. And Elena was supposed to be dead, drowned, gone, erased. Somewhere along the way I became invisible, Elena thought. Not even a person to him anymore. Just an obstacle, a problem to solve, a life insurance policy to cash in. But she was still here, still alive, still carrying the baby Blake had never really wanted. And that changed everything. The laptop screen glowed in the darkness. Elena sat at Grace's small kitchen table. The clock read 3:17 in the morning. She couldn't sleep anyway. Might as well search. Her fingers moved across the keyboard. Blake Carter, Vivian Cross, life insurance fraud. Each search opened new windows, new horrors. The first article made her stomach clench. Blake Carter's business partner dies in hiking accident. 2 years ago, Martin Reeves had fallen off a cliff during a weekend trip with Blake. No witnesses. Blake had hiked out alone to call for help. Martin's wife had questioned the story, said Martin was terrified of heights, would never hike that trail. But the investigation found nothing suspicious. Martin's share of their real estate development company had gone to Blake, worth approximately $2 million. Elena clicked another link, and another. A pattern emerged. People close to Blake had a habit of dying in accidents. His college roommate, carbon monoxide poisoning. Blake was out of town that weekend. His first serious girlfriend. Car crash on a mountain road. Blake had been following in his own vehicle. Said her car just went over the edge. He tried to help, but the fire started too fast. Her hands shook. She grabbed the edge of the table. Deep breath. Another. The nausea rolled through her. Morning sickness mixed with pure horror. More searches. She found a blog, anonymous, created 5 months ago. The post detailed suspicious deaths connected to Blake Carter. The author called themselves Truth Seeker. They'd been investigating Blake 4 months, collecting evidence, building a case. The most recent post stopped Elena cold. Blake Carter's first wife drowned. Elena clicked. The page loaded slowly. Grace's internet crawled tonight. Margaret Ann Carter died 7 years ago, 1 year before Elena met Blake. Drowned while swimming alone at night. Her body washed up on a beach 3 days later. Blake had been at a conference 200 miles away. Airtight alibi. The death was ruled accidental. But Margaret's mother hadn't believed it. She'd hired a private investigator. Found out Margaret had been planning to leave Blake, had consulted with a divorce attorney, had opened her own bank account and secretly moved money there. Was scheduled to move out the following week. Margaret had carried a $2 million life insurance policy. Blake collected every penny. Elena's vision blurred. Tears, rage, grief for a woman she'd never met. A woman who tried to escape and died for it. She wasn't the first. She was just the latest in a long line of people Blake eliminated when they became inconvenient. The laptop screen wavered. Elena blinked hard, forced herself to keep reading. The private investigator had taken his findings to police. They'd investigated, found nothing concrete, no witnesses, No physical evidence, just circumstantial connections and a mother's grief. The case went nowhere. Elena grabbed a notebook, started writing names, dates, connections, everything she could find. Evidence Blake had hidden behind accidents and alibis and his charming smile. Hours passed. The sun rose. Gray light filtered through the kitchen window. Grace came out of her bedroom, stopped when she saw Elena surrounded by papers and printouts from the old printer. "How long have you been up?" "All night." Elena's voice was hoarse. "Grace, he's done this before, multiple times. Margaret Carter, his business partner, his college roommate, maybe more. They all died in accidents, and Blake always benefited." Grace sat down heavily. She picked up one of the printouts. Read. Her face grew grim. "Have you eaten anything?" "I can't eat. I need to find more. I need to prove you need to take care of yourself and that baby." Grace stood. She made tea, toast, set them in front of Elena. "Eat. Then we'll figure out what to do with all this." Elena tried to eat. The toast tasted like cardboard, but she forced it down. The baby needed food even if she couldn't stomach it. "There's a detective," Elena said. "Mark Shaw. He questioned Blake's story about my accident. What if I sent him this information? Anonymously. He could investigate properly and risk Blake finding out you're alive. Blake can't know these searches came from a dead woman's ghost." Elena's mind raced. Faster, clearer than it had been in days. Truth Seeker. The blog. What if I contact them? They're already investigating Blake. They want the same thing I want. Justice, we wish says. Grace frowned. Or they could be anyone, someone who wants attention, a conspiracy theorist, you don't know. "I know Blake is going to do this again. Vivian thinks she won. She thinks she gets to live happily ever after with a millionaire. But she's next. He's already planning it. I'd bet my life on it." "You almost did bet your life." Grace sighed. "All right, contact this truth seeker person, but carefully, anonymously. Use a fake email. Don't give anything away that could identify you." Elena created a new email address, anonymous, untraceable. She crafted a message carefully. No personal details, just information. Facts she'd gathered from public records. Questions about Margaret Carter's drowning. Suggestions about where to look for more evidence. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The response came 4 hours later. "Who is this? How did you find this information?" Elena typed back. "Someone who knows Blake Carter is dangerous. Someone who wants him stopped." "Are you in danger? Do you need help?" Elena's fingers hovered over the keys. Yes, she was in danger. She did need help. But trusting a stranger could get her killed. "I'm safe for now. Keep investigating. The truth is there. You just have to dig deep enough." She closed the laptop, sat back. Her whole body ached. Exhaustion pulled at her, but her mind wouldn't stop. Blake was out there, living in their house, sleeping in their bed, probably with Vivian beside him, planning his next move, his next victim, his next accident. Elena stood, walked to the window. The ocean stretched endless and gray. Violent whitecaps churned the surface. A storm was coming. Memories flooded her. Good memories. Tainted now. Ruined. Their first date. Blake had taken her to an expensive restaurant, ordered for her without asking what she wanted. She thought it was romantic, sophisticated. Now she saw it differently. Control. He'd been testing her from the start, seeing if she'd let him make decisions, push boundaries, take over. Their engagement, 3 months after they met, fast, too fast. But Elena had been swept up in it. The attention, the gifts, the way he made her feel special, chosen. Her father had just lost everything in a bad investment. Her family was struggling. Blake offered stability, security, a future. Their wedding, small, intimate, just immediate family. Blake said he wanted it private, special, just for them. But looking back, Elena realized he'd isolated her, cut her off from her extended family, her friends, anyone who might question him, anyone who might see through his charm. The vow renewal on their third anniversary. Blake had planned everything, a surprise. He'd flown them to Napa Valley, rented a private villa. There had been champagne, romance, and papers to sign. Just updating our estate planning, he had said, making sure you're taken care of if anything happens to me. She'd signed, drunk and happy and trusting, never read a word, never questioned, just signed her life away. The prenup she thought was a romantic gesture had been a trap. She'd given up claim to everything. The house, his business, his money. All of it. In the event of divorce, she got nothing. Not even alimony. Blake had made sure of it. And the life insurance policy, the one she'd signed just last week, $3 million. Blake had said it was responsible. They were going to be parents. They needed to protect their family. Elena had signed. Of course she'd signed. Why wouldn't she trust her husband? God, she'd been so naive, so stupid, so blind. The kitchen door opened. Grace came back from her morning walk with Henry. The dog bounded in, shook water everywhere. His tail wagged as he spotted Elena. "Still brooding?" Grace asked. "Remembering, wishing I'd been smarter." Smart women get fooled by dangerous men all the time. Grace poured water into the kettle. "Don't blame yourself for not seeing what he worked hard to hide. Blake's a predator, a professional. He knew exactly how to play you." "That doesn't make me feel better." "It should, because it means this wasn't your fault. You're not stupid, you're not weak. You were targeted by someone who's been perfecting his technique for years, maybe decades." Elena sat down. Henry rested his head on her lap. She scratched behind his ears. The simple comfort of a dog's affection felt overwhelming. She started crying, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Grace didn't try to stop her. Just let her cry. Sometimes that's what survivors needed. Permission to fall apart, to grieve, to rage. When Elena finally stopped, Grace handed her a tissue. "Better?" "A little." Elena wiped her face. "I just keep thinking about all the signs I missed. All the times I should have left." "The hardest part is admitting I knew all along," Elena's voice cracked. "Some part of me knew he was dangerous. I just didn't want to believe I'd chosen that I'd married a monster." "You chose the man he pretended to be. That's different." "Is it?" "Yes." Grace said it firmly. "Blake showed you exactly what you wanted to see. That's what con men do. That's what abusers do. They don't walk up and announce that they're going to destroy you. They seduce you first, make you love them, make you depend on them. Then they have you trapped." Elena nodded. She knew Grace was right, intellectually. But emotionally, she still felt like she should have known, should have seen, should have run. Outside the cottage, sitting in Grace's old pickup truck, Elena couldn't make herself open the door. She just sat, engine off, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. They'd driven to town for groceries, a simple errand. But Elena couldn't move, couldn't walk into that store where people might recognize her face from the news, might wonder, might question. 20 minutes passed. Grace tapped on the window. "Want me to drive us home?" Elena nodded. She slid over. Let Grace take the wheel. Felt like a child, helpless, broken. Back at the cottage, Grace didn't lecture, didn't push, just made soup, set it in front of Elena. Sat with her while she ate. "This gets better," Grace said quietly. "Eventually, not today, not tomorrow, but eventually you'll be able to walk into a store without panicking. You'll be able to think about Blake without falling apart. The trauma fades. It doesn't disappear, but it fades." "How do you know?" "Because I've been where you are. Different circumstances, same fear, same shame, same doubt." Grace's eyes went distant. "My husband didn't try to kill me, but he hurt me in other ways. And when he died, I felt relief. Then guilt for feeling relieved. Then more shame for staying as long as I did. I didn't know. Most people don't. I don't advertise it. But I understand what you're going through. Why I moved out here. Why I help women who need to disappear. Because I know how hard it is to leave. How hard it is to rebuild." Elena reached across the table, squeezed Grace's hand. No words, just understanding. That night, Elena dreamed of drowning, of Blake's face above her as she sank, of weighted jewelry pulling her down into darkness. She woke gasping, tangled in sheets, her heart hammering, 4 months pregnant, alive, safe. But for how long? 8 months crawled by. Elena's belly grew round, her feet swelled. Morning sickness gave way to constant hunger, then heartburn, then exhaustion so deep she could barely climb the stairs to Grace's attic bedroom. Grace had connections, women she'd helped over the years. One worked at a homeless shelter in the city. She arranged for Elena to get a birth certificate, a social security number, a new identity. "Meet Nora Bennett," Grace said. She handed Elena the documents. Official, legal, real. Born in Oregon, parents deceased, no family, clean slate. Elena, no, Nora now, stared at her new name. Nora Bennett. It felt foreign, wrong, but necessary. Who was she? Nora asked. The real Nora Bennett. A baby who died 40 years ago, before computers, before everything was digital. Her identity sat unused, forgotten. Now it's yours. Nora memorized her new birthday, her new history, her new life. She practiced introducing herself. "Hi, I'm Nora, Nora Bennett," over and over until it felt almost natural. The baby kicked, strong, insistent. A tiny foot pressed against Nora's ribs from the inside. Real, present, depending on her to keep them both alive. She started building a nest, bought fabric from the thrift store in town, sewed curtains for the nursery corner of her room, made blankets, tiny clothes. Grace taught her to use the old sewing machine, showed her how to cut patterns, how to make something beautiful from scraps. "You're good at this," Grace said, watching Nora hem a baby gown. "My grandmother taught me when I was little." I'd forgotten. Nora's hands moved automatically. Needle in, pull through. The rhythm soothed her, kept her hands busy, kept her mind from wandering to dark places. At night, she couldn't sleep. The baby kicked. Her back ached, and her mind raced. 3 a.m. became her enemy, the hour when fear came creeping in, when doubt consumed her. She'd sit at Grace's laptop, searching, always searching. How long until presumed dead is legally dead? 7 years in California. 7 years before Blake could remarry without special court proceedings. 7 years before her death became official in every sense. Can a dead person's child inherit? Yes, if paternity is established. If the child is born after death. Complex, messy, but possible. Statute of limitations, attempted murder. None in California. If she could prove it, Blake could be prosecuted no matter how much time passed. The information lived in her brain. Facts and laws and possibilities. But she was 8 months pregnant, hiding in a cottage, legally dead. Her word against a millionaire with lawyers and alibis in a perfect reputation. What chance did she have? The due date came, went, no baby. Nora's back hurt constantly. Her feet looked like balloons. Grace checked her blood pressure daily, watched for signs of complications. First babies are stubborn, Grace said. This one's taking after its mother. 5 days overdue, contractions started. 3 in the morning. Of course. Nothing ever happened at a convenient time. Nora woke gasping. Pain ripped through her belly. Not like Braxton Hicks. Real. Urgent. Her water broke. Hot fluids soaked the sheets. "Grace!" Her voice came out strangled. "Grace, it's time!" Grace appeared in the doorway. Calm. Efficient. She'd delivered 3 babies during her nursing career. This was just another. Routine. Except nothing about this was routine. "Can't go to the hospital," Nora panted between contractions. "Can't risk." "I know, we'll do it here, just like we planned." Grace moved around the room, gathering supplies, towels, hot water, the medical kit she'd assembled months ago just in case. Labor lasted 19 hours, brutal, endless. Nora screamed until her throat was raw. She gripped Grace's hands so hard she left bruises. She begged for drugs, for relief, for anything to make it stop. "You're doing great," Grace said, over and over. "Almost there, keep pushing. You've got this." But Nora didn't have it. She was drowning again. in pain this time, in exhaustion, in fear. What if something went wrong? What if the baby was hurt? What if she couldn't do this? What if I fail him? Nora gasped. What if I'm not strong enough? You survived Blake. You survived the ocean. You can survive this. Grace's voice cut through the pain. Sharp, real, true. One more push, then another. Then the pressure released. A cry filled the room. Tiny, outraged, alive. Grace lifted the baby. A boy, red-faced and squirming and perfect. She placed him on Nora's chest, skin to skin. The baby's cries quieted. He blinked up at her with dark blue eyes. "Hi," Nora whispered. Tears streamed down her face. "Hi, baby. I'm your mom." The baby made a small sound, his tiny fist wrapped around her finger. The grip was surprisingly strong, determined, like he knew he had to hold on tight to survive. "Owen," Nora said. "I'm going to call you Owen. After the ocean that tried to take us but gave us back to each other instead." Grace cleaned them both up, checked Owen carefully. 8 pounds, 3 ounces, healthy, strong, 10 perfect fingers and 10 perfect toes, no complications. A miracle, really, considering everything. Nora held her son, studied his face. He looked like her. Same nose, same chin. But his eyes might be Blake's. Too soon to tell. The thought sent ice through her veins. This baby was Blake's son, genetically, biologically. Would Owen grow up to be like his father? Could evil be inherited? "Stop it," Grace said, reading her face. "That baby is himself, not Blake, not you. Himself. What you do now determines who he becomes." Nora nodded. She kissed Owen's forehead, breathed in his new baby smell. Sweet, clean, innocent. "I won't let him find you," she whispered. "I promise, whatever it takes, I'll keep you safe." But keeping that promise proved harder than she'd imagined. Owen cried, constantly, day and night. Nothing Nora did helped. She fed him, changed him, rocked him, sang to him. He just cried. "Colic," Grace diagnosed. "Some babies are just fussy. He'll grow out of it." "When?" Nora asked desperately. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours straight in 3 weeks. Her body ached, her breasts hurt from nursing. She smelled like sour milk and exhaustion. Eventually. Nora wanted to scream, or cry, or both. This wasn't how motherhood was supposed to be. She'd imagined peaceful moments. Bonding, love. Not this endless cycle of crying and feeding and changing diapers. What if she'd made a mistake? What if she wasn't cut out for this? What if Owen would have been better off with Blake and Vivian after all? The thought made her physically sick. No, Blake had tried to kill them both. He didn't deserve Owen. Didn't deserve to even know Owen existed. One night when Owen was 6 weeks old, he stopped breathing. Nora had just laid him down in his bassinet. She turned to get a glass of water. Turned back. Owen's face was blue. His chest wasn't moving. "Grace!" Nora's scream brought Grace running. She snatched Owen up, turned him over, hit his back. Once, twice, Owen gasped, choked, started breathing again, started crying. "Infant apnea," Grace said. Her hands shook. "It happens sometimes. He's okay. He's fine." But Nora wasn't fine. She stood frozen, useless. Her baby had stopped breathing and she just stood there, paralyzed, helpless. That night she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Owen's blue face. Every time she started to drift off, panic jerked her awake. Was he still breathing? Was he okay? Should she check? Should she let him sleep? Pretending to be asleep when Owen had nightmares and came to her bed, she held him tight, eyes closed. She couldn't let him see her crying, couldn't let him know how scared she was, how inadequate she felt. Mothers were supposed to be strong, brave, capable. Nora felt like she was barely holding on. Starting over felt impossible, she admitted to Grace one morning. They were in the kitchen, Owen finally sleeping, coffee steaming in their mugs. But staying dead felt like the only way to stay alive. "You're doing better than you think," Grace said. "I'm a mess. You're a survivor. There's a difference." Nora wanted to believe her, but doubt was a constant companion now. doubt and fear and exhaustion that went bone deep. Still, she kept going, one day at a time, fed Owen, changed him, rocked him through crying fits. Slowly, very slowly, learned how to be a mother. At 3 months, Owen smiled at her. A real smile. Not gaze, not reflex. He looked at her face and smiled. Joy bubbled up from somewhere deep in Nora's chest, unexpected, pure, real. There you are, she whispered. My baby boy. At 6 months, Owen laughed, a giggle that started in his belly and burst out. Nora had been making faces at him, silly, exaggerated. He thought it was hilarious. She did it again and again, just to hear that laugh. At 8 months, he started eating solid foods, making messes, smearing pureed carrots in his hair. Nora took pictures with Grace's old camera, captured these moments, this life they were building. Small, simple, but theirs. Owen's first word was mama. He said it at 10 months. Clear, definite. Mama, reaching for her, wanting her, needing her. Nora cried. Happy tears this time. She was somebody's mama. Owen's mama. And maybe she wasn't perfect. Maybe she had no idea what she was doing. But she loved him. Fiercely, completely, unconditionally. That love gave her strength, purpose, reason to keep going when everything felt impossible. She couldn't hide forever. Eventually, Owen would ask questions, would want to know about his father, his family, his real identity. But not yet. Not while he was still small, still safe, still hers. For now, they had Grace's cottage. They had the ocean. They had each other. And that was enough. Owen turned 3. A small party. Just Grace and Henry the Tall and a homemade cake. Owen blew out his candles, made a wish. Wouldn't tell anyone what he wished for. That's how wishes work, Grace explained. You keep them secret. Then they might come true. Nora wondered what Owen had wished for. Friends, maybe. He'd never played with other children. Just Grace and her. Their isolated world. She needed to think about his future. About school. Socialization. But sending Owen to preschool meant paperwork. Questions. Risks. The knock on the door came on a Tuesday morning. Loud. Official. Nora froze. Owen was playing with blocks on the floor. Grace was in the garden. Another knock. Ms. Mitchell, I'm Detective Marcus Shaw. I'd like to ask you a few questions. Nora's heart hammered. She scooped up Owen, moved quietly toward the back door, but Grace was already coming in, already moving to answer the front door. Stay calm, Grace mouthed at Nora. Take Owen upstairs. I'll handle this. Nora climbed the stairs, quickly, quietly. Owen sensed her fear. He wrapped his arms around her neck, didn't make a sound. Good boy. Such a good boy. From upstairs, Nora could hear voices. Grace's, calm, pleasant, a man's, deep, professional. I appreciate your time, Ms. Mitchell. I'm investigating the death of Elena Carter. Her body was never recovered. I'm following up on a few leads. That was 3 years ago, Grace said. Why now? New information has come to light. A blog, anonymous, but detailed, suggesting Blake Carter may have been involved in other suspicious deaths. Truth Seeker, the blog Nora had contributed to, someone had taken it seriously, was investigating properly. I don't see what that has to do with me, Grace said. The blog mentioned a retired nurse living on this stretch of coast, someone who might have helped Elena Carter if she'd survived. I'm just checking all possibilities. Silence. Nora held her breath, held Owen tighter. Detective Shaw, I'm a 70-year-old woman who walks my dog on the beach. If I'd found a pregnant woman half drowned 3 years ago, don't you think I would have reported it? Would you, if she asked you not to? More silence, Shanda. I help women sometimes, Grace said carefully. Women running from dangerous situations. Women who need to disappear. But I can't discuss specifics. Privacy, you understand. I do, and I respect that. But if Elena Carter is alive, she's in danger. Blake Carter is being investigated for fraud, money laundering, possibly murder. If she has information that could help the case, I need to talk to her. If I knew where she was, I'd tell you, but I don't. I'm sorry, detective. Shaw left. His card sat on the kitchen table. Grace brought it upstairs, handed it to Nora without a word. Detective Marcus Shaw, Homicide Division, a phone number, an email address. Call any time, written in pen on the back. He knows, Nora whispered. He suspects. That's different. Should I contact him? Grace shook her head. Not yet. Not until we know more. Not until you're ready. But the visit changed things. Shaw was actively looking, actively investigating Blake. Maybe Nora wasn't alone in this fight anymore. She kept the card, tucked it into her wallet next to Owen's ultrasound photo, a connection to the outside world, to justice, to the life she'd lost. Time kept moving. Owen grew, started talking in sentences, asking questions. Why don't I have a daddy? Where do we live? Can I go to school like kids on TV? Nora answered as honestly as she could. Your daddy was a bad man. We had to leave him. We're safe here. You'll go to school when you're older. I promise. At 4, Owen started preschool, a small Montessori program in town. 15 students, 1 teacher. Nora had agonized over the decision for months. But Owen needed other children, needed normalcy, needed a life beyond hiding. The family tree project came during the 2nd week. Owen came home with a worksheet. Draw your family, where they came from, who they are. Nora's stomach dropped. This was it, the question she'd been dreading. I have a mommy, Owen said, coloring carefully, and Aunt Grace and Henry. Is that enough family? Yes, baby. That's perfect. But the other parents talked. Nora could feel them watching, wondering. The widow who never mentioned her late husband. The single mother who appeared out of nowhere 4 years ago. No past, no history, no explanation. People are asking questions, Grace said. About you, about Owen. Maybe it's time to think about moving. Starting over somewhere new. Nora considered it, but moving meant leaving Grace, the cottage, the only safety she'd known in 4 years. And Blake was everywhere. She couldn't run forever. Instead, she did something brave, something terrifying. She started building a life. She'd been taking online art classes, drawing, painting, creating under her new name. Her work was good, really good. Grace had been encouraging her for years to do something with it. There's an empty storefront in town, Grace said one morning. Used to be a bookstore. Owner retired. It's been vacant for 6 months. Rent's cheap. What are you suggesting? An art gallery, your work, local artists, something small, manageable, something that gives you purpose, income, independence. The idea terrified Nora, going public, being seen, being known, but she couldn't hide forever. Owen needed stability, normalcy, a mother who did more than look over her shoulder constantly. She rented the storefront, spent 3 months renovating, painting walls, installing track lighting, building display shelves. Grace helped. Owen helped by making messes and asking questions and filling the space with his laughter. Nora's gallery opened on a Friday afternoon. Small crowd, mostly Grace's friends from town. A few curious tourists. They sold 3 paintings that first day. Not much, but something. A start. Over the next year, the gallery grew. More local artists wanted to display their work. Tourists discovered them. Word spread. Nora Bennett became known as the quiet woman with excellent taste who gave unknown artists a chance. She made friends, carefully, casually, never sharing too much, but enough to seem normal, friendly, just another single mom making it work. Owen thrived, 1st grade, then 2nd. A bright boy who loved books and art and asking questions about everything. He made friends, had play dates, birthday parties, a childhood, but he still asked about his father sometimes. Did he look like me? Why was he bad? Does he know about me? Nora answered honestly, age appropriately. He hurt people. That's why we had to leave. He doesn't know about you, and that keeps you safe. Do you miss him? No, baby, I don't. She did what she always did when overwhelmed. Reorganized the gallery at 2 in the morning. Art supplies by color, then by eyes, then by medium. The repetitive motion. The control over something, anything. The illusion that if she could just get the storage room perfect, maybe everything else would fall into place too. It never did. But the ritual soothed her anyway. Owen was 7 when Audrey Hampton walked into the gallery. Nora's old best friend. The one Elena had cut off when Blake said Audrey didn't understand their relationship. Audrey stared at Nora, frowned, tilted her head. "I'm sorry," Audrey said. "You remind me of someone I used to know. But that's impossible. She died years ago." Nora's heart stopped. She forced a smile, forced her voice steady. "I get that a lot. Must have one of those faces." Audrey bought a small watercolor, kept staring at Nora the whole time, left, came back the next day, and the next. Like she couldn't figure out the puzzle, but couldn't let it go either. "I knew someone named Elena Carter," Audrey said on her 4th visit. "She drowned 7 years ago. But you look just like her. The same eyes, same smile, same way of tilting your head when you're thinking." Nora's hands shook. She gripped the counter. "I'm sorry about your friend. That must have been hard." "It was, especially because I never believed she drowned. Blake always creeped me out. I tried to warn her before the wedding. She stopped talking to me." The words hung between them, loaded, dangerous, true. "If she were alive," Audrey continued, "if somehow she'd survived, I'd want her to know I'm sorry. Sorry I didn't try harder. Sorry I gave up. Sorry I believed Blake when he said she was dead." Nora's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back. Couldn't speak. Couldn't confirm. Couldn't risk it. Audrey reached across the counter, squeezed Nora's hand. "Whoever you are, you're doing great. This gallery is beautiful. Your son is lucky to have you." She left, didn't come back, but she'd seen, she'd known, and she'd kept the secret. That night, an email arrived. The subject line read, "I know who you are, and I know what Blake did. Let's talk." The sender was Julia Weston, an investigative journalist, truth seeker, the person behind the blog. Nora stared at the screen for 20 minutes. Her finger hovered over the delete button. One click. Gone. Safe. But she didn't delete it. She opened it. Read the full message. Julia had been investigating Blake for 2 years, had evidence of fraud, money laundering, connections to other deaths. But she needed Elena's testimony, needed proof Blake had attempted murder, needed someone willing to go public. "I can protect you," Julia wrote. "I have connections, resources. We can bring Blake down, but I need your help." Nora wrote back, one word: when. They met at a coffee shop 2 towns over, far from Nora's gallery, far from anyone who might recognize her. Julia Weston sat in the back corner, laptop open, files spread across the table. She looked professional, determined, angry. Nora slid into the seat across from her. No pleasantries, no small talk. "Show me what you have," Nora said. Julia turned the laptop, article drafts, spreadsheets, photos, documents, years of investigation laid out in organized folders. "Blake Carter has stolen approximately $8 million through various shell companies, money laundering through real estate deals, fraud, bribery. He's been under federal investigation for 6 months. Does he know? Not yet, but his lawyer probably suspects. Blake's getting sloppy, arrogant, thinks he's untouchable." Julia pulled out another folder. "Then there's this. Deaths connected to Blake over the past 15 years. 5 people, all ruled accidents, all benefited Blake financially." Nora's hands clenched. "His first wife, Margaret. You knew about her?" "I researched, after." Nora's voice was flat, empty. "After he pushed me off a yacht and left me to drown." Julia went still. "Can you prove it?" "I'm sitting here alive. That's proof he failed. But proof he tried. Physical evidence? Witnesses?" Nora shook her head. "It was just him and me, the weighted anklet. But that's at the bottom of the ocean now. He was smart. No cameras on the yacht that night. GPS disabled. He'd planned everything perfectly. Except you survived. Except I survived." Nora took a deep breath. "Tell me about Vivian Cross." Julia's expression darkened. "Vivian isn't innocent. She was Blake's accomplice from the start." She pulled up more documents. Vivian worked for Pacific Coast Insurance, the company that issued your life insurance policy. She processed it personally, knew the exact terms, knew when Blake took it out, knew how much you were worth. The betrayal hit Nora like a physical blow. She knew before. She helped him plan it. More than that, phone records show Vivian called Blake 12 times the day you died, including once 30 minutes before he picked you up for the yacht trip. They coordinated. She helped him set it up. Why? What did she get out of it? Blake. She got Blake, the marriage, the money, the life she wanted. She was his secretary for 3 years, watching you live the life she thought she deserved. She didn't just take your husband. She helped him murder you to get him. Nora felt sick, not just Blake, both of them, working together, planning, plotting, two monsters instead of one. Where is she now? Married to Blake, living in your old house, driving your old car, spending your insurance money. Julia's jaw clenched. And here's the worst part. She's pretending to be pregnant. What? Prosthetic belly. I have photos. She's been wearing it for 4 months, posting on social media about their upcoming baby. But it's fake, all of it. A sympathy play, making Blake look like the devoted husband and father. Nora thought of Owen, her real baby, Blake's actual son, growing up safe and hidden and anonymous, while Vivian wore a fake belly and played house with a murderer. She knows it's temporary, Julia continued. I found emails, buried deep but recoverable. Vivian discovered Blake has a new intern, young, pretty, ambitious, same type as Vivian was 7 years ago. Blake's grooming his next victim. Vivian's going to end up like me, like Margaret, dead in an accident. Exactly, but she doesn't realize it yet. She thinks she won, thinks she's special, thinks Blake actually loves her. Nora almost felt sorry for Vivian. Almost. Then she remembered the weighted anklet, the cold ocean, the terror of drowning while pregnant. No, Vivian deserved whatever came next. What do you need from me? Nora asked. Testimony, on record, everything that happened that night, everything you discovered about Blake, everything about Margaret, the pattern, the planning. I'll write the story. It'll go viral. Force police to reopen your case. Force them to investigate Blake properly. But I need you willing to go public. I have a son. Blake doesn't know about him. If I come forward, Blake is going to prison, federal charges, murder charges once we prove what he did. He won't be able to touch you or your son, I promise. Nora wanted to believe her, but Blake had gotten away with it for 15 years. Multiple victims, multiple crimes. Why would this time be different? I need to think about it. Don't think too long. Blake's lawyer is smart. Once they realize the investigation is serious, they'll start destroying evidence. We need to move fast. Nora left the coffee shop. Her head spun. Her stomach churned. She drove home on autopilot. Grace was watching Owen. They'd made pancakes. The cottage smelled like syrup and butter and normalcy. Mama! Owen ran to her, sticky hands, syrup in his hair. I made you pancakes. Grace says they're almost edible. Nora picked him up, held him tight. He was 8 years old now, getting big, getting heavy. But she held him anyway, breathed in his little boy's smell, memorized this moment. Going public meant the end of hiding, meant exposing Owen to the truth about his father, meant risking everything they'd built. But it also meant justice, meant stopping Blake before he killed again, meant Vivian facing consequences, meant other potential victims staying safe. She had to choose between her dignity and her security. Both felt impossible to lose. But then she realized Blake had already taken her dignity. She'd been hiding for 7 years. That wasn't security. That was a prettier prison. The only way to be truly safe was to stop being his victim. 3 years passed in a blur. Owen turned 10, then 11. The gallery thrived. Nora expanded to a second location. Her artwork sold well. She was successful, independent, but still hiding, still looking over her shoulder, still afraid. Julia kept investigating, kept building her case, kept pressuring Nora to go public. We're close, she'd say. Just a little more time. Just a little more evidence. But time kept sliding by. Blake's business continued. Vivian's fake pregnancy ended in a supposed miscarriage. Lots of sympathy, lots of support. Blake played the devastated almost father perfectly. Then Grace collapsed in the garden. Heart attack, small, survivable. But it was a warning. She was 76 now, not getting younger, not immortal. "I'm not going to be here forever," Grace said from her hospital bed. Owen sat in the corner, reading a book, pretending not to listen. "You need to stop hiding. Stop waiting. Stop letting Blake control your life from a distance." "I'm not." "You are. He tried to kill you 8 years ago, and you're still letting him win because you're afraid. I understand. But fear is a cage, honey, and you've been locked inside for too long." Nora knew she was right. She'd been paralyzed, frozen, using Owen as an excuse when really she was just terrified. That night, she couldn't sleep. She got up, went to the gallery, let herself in through the back door. The storage room was a mess. Art supplies everywhere. She started organizing. By color, then by species, then by medium, the rhythm, the control, the illusion. She worked until dawn. When she finished, she sat on the floor, surrounded by perfect order that meant nothing, solved nothing. Her phone buzzed. Text from Julia. "Blake's being arrested. Federal charges, fraud, money laundering. They're raiding his office right now. It's happening. Are you ready?" Nora stared at the message. This was it. The moment she'd been both dreading and hoping for. Blake was finally facing consequences. But not for trying to kill her, not for Margaret. Just for money crimes. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. She texted back. "I'm ready. Let's finish this. Let's tell the whole truth." "About time," Julie replied. "I'll be there tomorrow. Bring the kid. He should hear this from you before the whole world knows." Nora went home, made breakfast. Owen came downstairs, messy hair, sleepy eyes. Her beautiful boy who knew nothing about where he came from, what his father had tried to do. "We need to talk," Nora said, "about your father, about who he is, about why we've been hiding." Owen put down his cereal spoon. His face went serious, old beyond his years. "I already know," he said quietly. "I'm not stupid, Mom. I've been Googling. I know who you used to be. I know who he is. I know what he tried to do." Nora's heart broke. "How long?" "A year, maybe more. I saw your old name on some documents in Grace's desk. I looked it up, found the news articles, found your old photos. You were pretty. You still are, but different, sadder." "Owen, it's okay, Mom. I'm glad we hid. I'm glad you kept us safe. But I'm ready now. Ready to not hide anymore. Ready to make him pay for what he did." At 11 years old, her son was braver than she was. Smarter, stronger, more ready to face the truth. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. Let's go tell everyone what he did. Let's make sure he can never hurt anyone else." Nora hugged him, her boy, her miracle, her reason for everything. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, we'll do it together." Blake's arrest made headlines. Millionaire real estate developer charged with fraud. Photos of Blake in handcuffs, being led from his office building. His face showed shock. Outrage, not guilt, never guilt. Nora watched the news footage over and over, trying to feel something, satisfaction, relief, victory, but all she felt was numb. "He looks older," Owen observed. "Grayer, meaner." He did. 8 years had not been kind to Blake. Prison would be even less kind. Julia arrived that afternoon. She set up her recording equipment in Nora's living room. Professional, efficient, ready to capture every detail. "Start from the beginning," Julia said. "When you first met Blake, what attracted you to him? How the relationship progressed? Don't leave anything out." Nora took a deep breath. Owen sat beside her, holding her hand. Grace sat in the corner. Silent support. "I met Blake Carter 9 years ago at a charity gala. I was 26. My father's real estate company had just gone bankrupt. My family was struggling financially. Blake was successful, charming. He made me feel special. Rescued, safe." The words came slowly at first, then faster. Years of silence breaking open. The courtship, the isolation, the control disguised as love. The wedding, the prenup she'd signed drunk, the life insurance policy, the weighted anklet, the push. His hands were on my shoulders, Nora said. Her voice stayed steady, clinical, detached. He looked me in the eyes, told me Vivian was waiting for him. Then he pushed. I fell backward into the ocean. The water was so cold. The jewelry he'd given me that day dragged me down like anchors. He'd planned it all, every detail. He watched me drown, then he left. Julia's face stayed professional, but Nora could see the anger in her eyes, the determination. The weighted anklet, Julia said. Can you describe it? Gold, with charms. He said it was an early push present, but each charm was lead, not gold, heavy, designed to pull me under. I barely got it off before I drowned. Do you know where Blake purchased it? No, but it was custom. He'd have had to order it specially. Maybe there's a record somewhere. Julia made notes. What happened after you survived? Nora told her everything. Grace finding her, the newspaper, discovering Blake had collected the insurance money, creating a new identity, having Owen alone, hiding for 8 years, building a new life while Blake lived hers. Did you ever consider coming forward sooner? Every day, but I was afraid. Blake had gotten away with it before, with Margaret, with others. I didn't think anyone would believe me, and I had Owen to protect. If Blake knew about him, he would have used your son as leverage, Julia finished. Or eliminated him too. You were right to hide. Owen squeezed Nora's hand. But we're not hiding anymore. No, Nora agreed. We're not hiding anymore. The interview lasted 4 hours. Every detail, every memory, every piece of evidence Nora had gathered over the years. Julia recorded it all. This is good, Julia said when they finished. Really good. But I need more. I need Vivian's side. I need to know exactly what she knew, when she knew it, how involved she was. Vivian won't talk to you. She will if she knows Blake is turning on her. If she knows he was planning to kill her next. If she knows about the intern. Julia was right. Vivian was a survivor too. In her own twisted way. She'd do whatever necessary to save herself. 2 days later, news broke. Blake Carter also under investigation for death of first wife. The story detailed Margaret's drowning, the suspicious circumstances, the private investigator's findings, Blake's collection of insurance money. Public opinion shifted. Blake wasn't just a fraud, he was potentially a murderer. Social media exploded. #justice for Margaret trended. People dug up old articles, old photos, connected dots. The pressure mounted. Blake's lawyer released a statement denying everything. Blake was innocent, a victim of circumstantial evidence and speculation. These accusations were defamatory. Legal action would follow. But then Shaw made his move. He'd been building his case quietly, waiting for the right moment. Now was the time. Blake Carter arrested for attempted murder. Shaw had enough. The weighted anklet, custom ordered from a jeweler in Los Angeles. Receipt in Blake's name. Order placed 6 months before Nora's supposed death. The jeweler remembered the order, thought it was strange, kept detailed records. The GPS on Blake's yacht, disabled manually. Forensic analysis proved it. Blake had turned it off himself 2 hours before the trip, then claimed it malfunctioned, lied to Coast Guard investigators. The insurance policy. Vivian had processed it personally, her signature on the documents. Her computer had accessed Elena Carter's file 93 times in the week before her death. Unusual, suspicious, evidence of planning, phone records. Blake and Vivian had called each other 17 times the day of the murder, including a 20-minute call 30 minutes before Blake picked Elena up. It wasn't just circumstantial anymore. It was premeditated, planned, murder for profit with Vivian as accessory. Vivian was arrested 2 days later. She screamed at the cameras, proclaimed her innocence, blamed Blake. He made me do it. He said she was going to die anyway. He said it was a mercy. The confession was damning, immediate, panicked. Vivian realized too late that Blake wasn't going to protect her. He was throwing her under the bus to save himself. Owen watched the news with Nora. His face was serious, thoughtful. She's scared, he said. She should be. But she's also been lied to, like you were. Blake's good at that, at making people believe him, at making them do things they normally wouldn't. Nora looked at her son, 11 years old, wise beyond his years. You're right, Vivian was a victim too, just a different kind. Are you going to forgive her? I don't know, maybe someday, but not today. The trial preparations began. Shaw contacted Nora directly. He'd known for years she was alive, had been protecting her, waiting for the right moment to bring her forward safely. I never believed the accident stories, Shaw said. They met in his office. Owen waited outside with Grace. Blake's body language was wrong. His story had inconsistencies. But I had no proof, no witnesses, no body, just gut instinct. Why didn't you push harder? I did, behind the scenes, quietly, building the case piece by piece, waiting for Blake to slip up, for someone to talk, for you to surface. I knew if you were alive, you'd come forward eventually. When you were ready, when it was safe. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for surviving. Your testimony is going to put him away forever. But facing Blake in court terrified Nora. Sitting in her car outside the courthouse, she couldn't make herself go inside. The building loomed, massive, intimidating, final. Grace sat beside her, silent, patient. 30 minutes passed. Want me to drive? Grace finally asked. No, I need to do this. I just need a minute. Take all the time you need. Nora closed her eyes, breathed, thought about Owen, about Margaret, about all the women Blake had hurt, about all the women he might hurt in the future if she didn't stop him. She got out of the car. Grace walked beside her ear, up the steps, through security, into the courtroom where Blake waited. He looked at her, their eyes met across the courtroom. Blake's face showed shock, then rage, then fear. He thought she was dead, believed it completely. Seeing her alive shattered his reality. Good, let him be afraid. Let him understand what it felt like to lose control, to have your carefully built life destroyed in an instant. The preliminary hearing was brief. Both Blake and Vivian pleaded not guilty, requested separate trials. Their lawyers argued, made motions, filed briefs, but the prosecution had evidence, lots of it, the weighted anklet, the phone records, Vivian's panicked confession, Shaw's years of investigation, Julia's article exposing the pattern of deaths, and Nora, alive, ready to testify, ready to tell the truth. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. Questions shouted. Mr. Carter, how does it feel to be alive? Were you in hiding all this time? Did you know about Blake's other crimes? Julia stepped forward. She'd been hired as Nora's spokesperson. Ms. Carter will not be answering questions at this time. She'll tell her story in court, under oath, where it matters. They pushed through the crowd. Grace created a path. Owen stayed close, protected. His face was hidden. The press didn't know about him yet. Nora wanted to keep it that way as long as possible. That night, Owen had nightmares. He woke up crying, scared. Nora held him. It's okay, baby. You're safe, I promise. What if he gets out? What if he comes after us? He won't. He's going to prison for a very long time, maybe forever. But what if? No what ifs. We're safe now. The hiding is over. We won. He lost. Owen buried his face in her shoulder, still her baby, even at 11, still needing his mother's comfort and protection. Nora held him until he fell back asleep. Then she sat in the darkness, processing, planning, preparing for what came next. The trial, the testimony, the exposure, her face and name everywhere, her story told and retold, her pain made public. But also justice, finally. After 8 years, Blake would face consequences. Vivian would face consequences. Margaret's family would get answers, maybe closure. And Nora would get her life back, her real name, her real identity, not hiding anymore, not running, just living, free. It was terrifying, liberating, necessary. She was ready. Vivian's lawyer contacted Julia 3 weeks before the trial. My client wants to talk, off the record, no cameras, just a conversation. Julia was suspicious. About what? A deal. Vivian has information about Blake, information that could be useful to Ms. Carter's case. She's willing to share, for consideration. Julia discussed it with Nora. They sat in Nora's gallery after hours, wine on the table. Strategy notes spread everywhere. It's a trap, Nora said. Has to be. Probably, but what if it's not? What if Vivian really does have evidence we don't know about? Then why not give it to the police? Because she wants something in return. Reduced sentence, witness protection, money, whatever her price is. Nora considered. Vivian had been Blake's partner, his accomplice. She knew things, intimate details about his planning, his methods, his other crimes. If I meet with her, I wear a wire. Shaw knows about it, has people nearby. We do this safely, legally, no mistakes. Agreed. Shaw wasn't happy about the plan. Too risky. Vivian's desperate. Desperate people are dangerous. She's also trapped, Nora argued. Blake threw her under the bus. She knows he was planning to kill her next. She has nothing to lose by helping us. Everything to gain. Or she's working with Blake, setting you up, trying to discredit your testimony. Then we'll have it on tape. Either way, we win. Shaw finally agreed, but he insisted on precautions. Wire, backup nearby, public location, multiple exits, full security protocol. The meeting was set for a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory, busy, safe. Nora arrived early. Shaw's people were already there. Plainclothes, scattered, watching. Vivian walked in exactly on time. She looked terrible, thin, haggard, expensive clothes hanging loose on her frame. Makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. Fear had eaten her alive from the inside. She sat across from Nora, didn't order anything, just stared. "You look good," Vivian said finally, "for someone who's supposed to be dead." "You look terrible. Prison isn't agreeing with you." Vivian's laugh was bitter. "I'm not in prison. Not yet. House arrest, ankle monitor. But yeah, it's hell." "What do you want, Vivian?" "I want a deal. Reduced sentence, 5 years instead of 20. In exchange, I'll tell you everything, every detail. Every plan, every crime. I'll testify against Blake. I'll bury him." "Why should I trust you? You helped him try to kill me." "Because Blake was going to kill me too. I found the jewelry order, another weighted anklet, another custom piece, but not for you, for me. He was planning my accident already. I was supposed to drown in the bathtub. Pregnant woman slips, tragic accident. He collects insurance, moves on to the intern." Nora's stomach turned. History repeating. Blake's pattern never changed, just new victims. "When did you find out?" 2 months ago, I was looking for our tax documents, found a file on his computer. Hidden, encrypted. But I knew his passwords. I know all his passwords. He thinks I'm stupid, grateful, loyal. He doesn't realize I've been documenting everything since the beginning. Vivian pulled out a flash drive, set it on the table. Bank accounts, shell companies, money laundering, bribes, every financial crime Blake's committed in the past 10 years. Plus his insurance scam notes, his pattern, his planning, everything. Nora stared at the flash drive. "Why keep this? Why document everything?" "Insurance. Blake taught me that. Always have insurance, leverage, protection. I knew eventually he'd turn on me. I just didn't expect it so soon." "You knew what he was, what he'd done, and you still helped him try to kill me." Vivian's face crumpled. Tears spilled over. Real ones, genuine remorse, or very good acting. Nora couldn't tell. "I was in love with him. I thought I was different, special. He made me feel like I mattered, like I was smart and capable and powerful. He said you didn't understand him, that you were weak, that setting him free was mercy for both of you. It was murder. I know that now. I've known it for years, but I couldn't admit it, because if I admitted it, I had to face what I'd done, what I'd become, a murderer, an accomplice, a monster." "You are a monster, Vivian. So is Blake, worse than me. I helped him kill you because I loved him. He tried to kill you because you were inconvenient. There's a difference." "Not much of one." Vivian wiped her eyes. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a deal. 5 years. I'll give you everything, every crime, every victim, every detail. Blake will spend the rest of his life in prison. Isn't that worth 5 years off my sentence? Before Nora could answer, Vivian's purse buzzed. She pulled out her phone, checked it. Her face went pale. What? Blake. He's been released. His lawyer posted bail. $10 million. Nora's blood froze. He's out? He's out, and he knows we're meeting. Someone must have told him. One of his people. He has people everywhere. Police, courthouse, everywhere. Shaw appeared beside their table. Not subtle anymore. Just there. Miss Carter, we need to go. Now. But Vivian grabbed Nora's arm. Wait, you need to know. Blake didn't just try to kill you. He was planning to kill your baby too. After you were dead, he was going to claim you miscarried from stress, would have cut the baby out and disposed of it, made sure there was no heir, no complications. That's why he waited until you were 4 months along. Far enough to show, not far enough for viability outside the womb. The words hit like physical blows. Blake hadn't just wanted her dead. He'd wanted Owen dead. Erased, never born. He's evil, Vivian, Vivian whispered. True evil. And he'll kill anyone who gets in his way, including me, including you, including your son, if he finds out about him. He doesn't know about Owen. He will. He has investigators, resources, money. If he figures out you had the baby, he'll come after both of you. You need the evidence I have. You need me to testify. You need to put him away forever, because if you don't, we're all dead. Shaw pulled Nora away. We're leaving. Now. This meeting is over. They rushed out. Shaw's team surrounded them. Protective. Alert. Blake was out on bail. Knew about the meeting. Might be nearby. Might do something stupid. Desperate. The drive back to the gallery was tense. Silent. Owen and Grace waited inside. Safe. Unaware of the danger. Nora burst through the door, pulled Owen into her arms. We need to go. Somewhere safe. Right now. What happened? Blake's out. He knows I'm alive. Knows about the case. He's going to come after us. Then we fight back. Owen's voice was steady, calm, brave. We use what Vivian gave you. We put him away. We don't run anymore. Nora looked at her son. When had he grown up? When had he become stronger than her? You're right. We fight back. Shaw arranged protective custody. A safe house. Guards. 24/7 security. Nora, Owen, and Grace stayed there while Shaw's team analyzed the flash drive Vivian had provided. The evidence was damning, comprehensive, detailed. Vivian had documented everything. Bank statements, email chains, audio recordings. Blake's entire criminal enterprise laid bare. But more importantly, she'd recorded conversations, private ones, between her and Blake, where he'd explained his plans, his methods, his philosophy. Margaret was going to leave me, Blake's voice said on one recording. Take half my money, ruin my reputation. I couldn't let that happen. So I fixed it, made it look like an accident. Easy, clean. Insurance paid for everything. Another recording. Elena was a mistake, too trusting, too weak, no backbone. I needed someone ambitious, smart. You, Vivian. You understand what it takes to win, what it takes to remove obstacles. And the most damning one, the baby complicates things, but not for long. After the accident, I'll claim she miscarried from trauma. No one will question it. No body, no evidence, just tragic circumstances. Then we're free, clear, together. Vivian had recorded it all, saved it all, used it all as insurance, and now it would bury Blake. The trial date approached. Blake's lawyers tried every delay tactic, every motion, every legal maneuver. But the evidence was overwhelming. The judge denied the delays. This trial is happening, the judge ruled. The people have waited long enough for justice. 3 days before trial, Vivian was found dead in her apartment, hanging from a light fixture. Apparent suicide. A note said she couldn't live with the guilt anymore. But Shaw wasn't buying it. The angle's wrong, the rope, The knot. This wasn't suicide. This was staged. Blake had made bail, had resources, had people. Vivian became a liability once she turned on him. So he eliminated her. One last victim, one last crime. But he'd made a mistake. Vivian had already given them everything. Her testimony wasn't needed anymore. The recordings spoke for themselves. Blake's own words would convict him. And now Vivian's death would be added to the charges. Another murder. Another life taken to protect Blake's secrets. Nora sat in the safe house, trying to process. Vivian was dead, murdered, by the same man who tried to kill Nora 8 years ago. She should feel something. Relief that Vivian couldn't testify. Satisfaction that she'd paid the price. Horror at the murder. Something. But all she felt was tired. So tired. Tired of Blake. Tired of death. Tired of looking over her shoulder. Tired of being afraid. "I want this over," she told Shaw. "Whatever it takes, I want Blake in prison where he can never hurt anyone else ever again. Then we finish this. In court, your testimony, his conviction, justice finally." The morning of the trial, Nora stood in front of the mirror. She looked different than 8 years ago. Older, harder, stronger. The soft society wife was gone. In her place stood someone who'd survived the unsurvivable. She checked her phone. Lock, unlock, lock. Owen's photo smiled at her. Sweet, happy, safe. Grace's text came through. "You've got this?" Unlock. Owen's photo again. Lock. Deep breath. She walked out, ready to face Blake, ready to tell the truth, ready to win. The courthouse steps felt like climbing a mountain. Reporters lined both sides. Cameras flashed. Questions shouted. Nora kept her head up, didn't answer, just walked. Grace and Shaw flanked her. Owen had stayed at the safe house. No need to expose him to this circus. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Blake sat at the defense table. 2 expensive lawyers beside him. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, hair styled, face calm, playing the role of innocent man wrongly accused. His eyes found Nora. Cold, dead, calculating. He mouthed something. She couldn't quite read it, but the message was clear. He wasn't done fighting. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The trial began. Prosecutor Sarah Chen was efficient, professional, relentless. She laid out the case methodically. The timeline, the evidence, the pattern of deaths surrounding Blake Carter over 15 years. "This is not a man who made one mistake," Chen told the jury. "This is a serial predator who has killed repeatedly for financial gain. Who views human life as disposable when it interferes with his plans? Who calculated, planned, executed, then moved on to his next victim without remorse?" Blake's lawyer, Marcus Sutherland, countered with reasonable doubt. Circumstantial evidence. Coincidence. His client was a successful businessman targeted by jealous competitors and attention-seeking journalists. "Where's the proof?" Sutherland demanded. "Where's the physical evidence that Blake Carter pushed his wife off a yacht? Elena Carter survived, went into hiding, created a false identity. Why? If she was truly innocent, truly afraid. Why not go to police immediately? Why wait 8 years? I'll tell you why. Because her story doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Because she's bitter about their divorce settlement. Because she wants revenge. But they weren't divorced. Blake had collected life insurance for a dead wife, had remarried, had lived off blood money for 8 years. Those facts were undeniable. Day 1 ended without Nora taking the stand. Just foundation, expert witnesses, financial analysts, insurance investigators, building the case brick by brick. That night, Nora couldn't sleep. Tomorrow she'd testify, face Blake, tell her story under oath, with the whole world watching. Grace made tea, sat with her. "You know what you need to say. You've been preparing for this for 8 years. Just tell the truth. That's all you have to do." "What if they don't believe me?" "They'll believe you because every word is true, and truth has power. Blake's been lying for so long he's forgotten what truth sounds like. But you haven't. You've lived it, survived it. That authenticity will come through." Day 2, the prosecutor called Nora to the stand. She walked slowly. Each step felt weighted, important. She placed her hand on the Bible. Swore to tell the truth. Sat down. Chen started gently. Background, how Nora met Blake. Their courtship, marriage, the slow isolation, the control. Did there come a time when you began to fear your husband? Yes, about 2 years into our marriage. He started making all the decisions. Where we went, who we say, what I wore. If I questioned him, he'd get angry. Not violent, just cold, distant, punishing. How did that make you feel? Trapped, like I was disappearing. Becoming whatever version of me Blake wanted. Not my own person anymore. Just his wife, his possession. The questions continued, the prenup, the insurance policy, the pregnancy, Blake's growing distance, the yacht trip. Tell the jury what happened that night. Nora's voice stayed steady, calm, clinical. Blake gave me a glass of champagne. We toasted to new beginnings. Then he told me I was worth $3 million in life insurance and asked if I knew that. When I looked confused, he said Vivian was waiting for him, that I was in the way. Then he pushed me off the yacht. The courtroom went silent. No whispers, no movement, just complete attention. What happened next? I fell into the ocean. The water was freezing. My dress tangled around my legs. The anklet Blake had given me that morning dragged me down. It was weighted, lead charms disguised as gold, pulling me under like an anchor. Chen showed photos, the jeweler's receipt, the custom order, the specifications Blake had requested, heavy charms, secure clasp, difficult to remove. Blake Carter ordered this anklet 6 months before your supposed death, Chen said, with specific instructions to make it heavy. Why would he do that? To make sure I drowned, to make sure I couldn't swim to safety. He planned it? All of it. Blake's lawyer objected. Speculation, but the judge allowed it. Nora's interpretation of Blake's actions was relevant. How did you survive? I fought, clawed at the anklet until the clasp broke, swam to the surface. The current carried me miles down the coast. Grace Mitchell found me the next morning, half dead on a beach. She saved my life. Why didn't you go to police? Because Blake had already reported my death as an accident. Because he'd collected the insurance money. Because he had lawyers and power and I had nothing. Because I was pregnant and terrified he'd finish what he started. So you hid. I survived. I created a new identity, had my son alone, built a life, waited until Blake made a mistake, until someone believed me, until it was safe to come forward. Chen showed more evidence. Phone records. Blake and Vivian's calls on the day of the murder. The GPS on the yacht disabled manually. The fake suicide note created on Elena's computer from Blake's IP address. This wasn't an accident. This was premeditated murder, and Blake Carter almost got away with it. Then came the recordings, Vivian's insurance. Blake's own words played in the courtroom. His cold calculation, his admission about Margaret, his plan to eliminate the baby. The jury's faces showed horror, disgust, belief. They believed Nora, believed the evidence, believed Blake was exactly what she said he was, a killer. Sutherland tried to discredit Nora on cross-examination, attacked her credibility, her delay in coming forward, her new identity, her relationship with Julia Weston. Isn't it convenient that you waited 8 years, that you only surfaced after Blake became wealthy again? After there was money to gain from a civil suit? I don't want Blake's money, Nora said quietly. I want him in prison, where he can't hurt anyone else. Money means nothing to a dead woman. Justice means everything. You created a false identity, committed fraud yourself. How can the jury trust anything you say? I created a new identity to stay alive, to protect my son, to survive. Blake created a false narrative, lied to police, collected insurance money fraudulently, murdered his first wife, tried to murder me. Who's really the liar here? The question hung. Sutherland had no answer. He sat down. Chen called Shaw next. He detailed his investigation, years of following Blake, documenting suspicious deaths, building connections, waiting for proof. I never believed Elena Carter drowned accidentally, Shaw testified. Blake's story had inconsistencies from day one, but I had no proof, no witnesses, no body, just instinct. So I kept watching, kept investigating, kept hoping Elena was alive somewhere, that she'd come forward when she was ready. Expert witnesses followed, forensic accountants, insurance investigators, tech specialists who recovered Blake's deleted files, doctor who examined photos of Elena's bruises and confirmed finger marks on her shoulders and wrists. The evidence mounted. Overwhelming, damning, undeniable. On day 5, the prosecution rested. Blake's defense was brief. Character witnesses, business associates who praised his integrity, friends who swore he was incapable of violence. Blake himself didn't testify. Sutherland advised against it. Too risky. The recordings already condemned him. His own voice admitting to Margaret's murder, planning Elena's death, discussing eliminating the baby. No jury would believe him over his own recorded words. Closing arguments. Chen was powerful, passionate. She walked the jury through every piece of evidence, every connection, every crime. Blake Carter is a predator, a murderer, a man who views human life as currency, as obstacles to remove when convenient. He killed Margaret Carter. He tried to kill Elena Carter and her unborn child. He killed Vivian Cross when she became a liability. How many more deaths will there be if you let him walk free? How many more women will he eliminate? How many more accidents will happen to people who inconvenience him? Sutherland tried to create doubt, questioned timing, motives, suggested other explanations. But his heart wasn't in it. Even he knew Blake was guilty. He was just doing his job, playing his role, going through the motions. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Long, tensely, Nora waited in a private room, Grace beside her. Owen had been brought in. He sat quietly, reading, pretending he wasn't terrified. Finally, word came. Verdict reached, everyone back to the courtroom. The jury filed in, faces serious. No one looked at Blake. That was usually a bad sign for the defendant. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked. We have, Your Honor. On the charge of attempted murder of Elena Carter, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of murder in the first degree of Margaret Carter? Guilty. On the charge of murder in the first degree of Vivian Cross? Guilty. Charge after charge. Guilty, guilty, guilty. All of them. Every single one. Blake's face stayed blank. No emotion, no reaction. Like he'd expected this. Like he'd already moved on to his appeal strategy. But Nora felt it. The release, the validation, the weightlifting. He'd been found guilty by a jury of his peers, his crimes exposed, his lies revealed, his power broken. Grace squeezed her hand. Owen leaned against her shoulder. They'd won, finally, after 8 years, justice. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge was harsh, thorough, methodical in detailing Blake's crimes and their impact. Blake Carter, you have been found guilty of multiple counts of murder and attempted murder. You have shown no remorse, no recognition of the harm you have caused, no humanity. Therefore, this court sentences you to life in prison without possibility of parole. You will spend the rest of your days behind bars, never to hurt, never to kill, never to destroy another life. May God have mercy on your soul, because this court does not. Blake was led away in handcuffs. He looked at Nora one last time. His face showed something new. Fear. Real fear. He was going to die in prison, alone, powerless, forgotten. Nora felt nothing, no satisfaction, no joy, no relief, just emptiness where Blake used to live rent-free in her head. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed again. This time Nora stopped, faced the cameras, spoke. Blake Carter tried to kill me 8 years ago. He almost succeeded, but I survived. I rebuilt my life. I raised my son. And today, justice was finally served. To Margaret Carter's family, I'm sorry I couldn't save her. But I hope this verdict brings some peace to Vivian Inn's family. I'm sorry she lost her way. Sorry Blake manipulated her. Sorry she died before she could truly atone. And to anyone else out there hiding from someone dangerous, someone who hurt them, someone they fear, you can survive this. You can rebuild. You can win. It takes time, takes courage, takes help, but you can do it. I did, and I'm here, alive, free, victorious. Julia stood beside her. The full story will be published tomorrow. Every detail, every crime, every victim. Blake Carter's legacy will be one of violence and failure. Not success, not power, just crime and consequences. They walked away from the courthouse. Together, Nora, Owen, Grace, a family, bound not by blood but by survival, by choice, by love. You did it, Mom, Owen said quietly. You beat him. We did it, all of us, together. That night, Nora returned to the beach where Grace had found her 8 years ago. The ocean stretched endless under the stars, dark, cold, uncaring. But Nora wasn't afraid. She walked to the water's edge, let the waves touch her toes, took off her shoes, waded into her knees, then her waist, the water that had tried to kill her, the water that had given her back. She dove under a wave, came up gasping, laughing, free. Not anymore, she thought. The fear is gone. Blake's gone. The nightmare is over. 6 months after the trial, Elena Carter Bennett stood in front of a crowd of 50 women. The new domestic violence center named Grace's Haven had opened that morning. Bright, welcoming, safe. My name is Elena Carter Bennett, she said. Her voice was steady, strong. 8 years ago, my husband tried to kill me. He pushed me off a yacht while I was pregnant, left me to drown, collected insurance money, moved on with his life. But I survived. And this center exists because of that survival. Because women who are hurt, who are scared, who are running, they deserve a place to go. Resources, support, hope. The crowd applauded. Elena smiled. This felt right. Purpose, meaning, using her pain to help others. Grace sat in the front row. Healthy now, recovered from her heart issues. Proud, beaming. Owen sat beside her, 12 years old, growing taller every day, his father's eyes, his mother's strength. After the speeches, Elena walked through the center, showed donors the facilities, the counseling rooms, the legal aid office, the children's playroom, the safe apartments upstairs for women in crisis. This is amazing, one donor said. How did you fund all of it? Civil suit against Blake's estate, recovered $2 million of the insurance money he stole, plus private donations. People wanted to help, wanted to make sure Blake's crimes led to something good, something healing. The donor nodded. What about your son? How's he handling all the publicity? Better than me, honestly. He's strong, he understands what happened, knows who his father was, but he also knows that doesn't define him. He's Owen Carter Bennett, his own person. Not Blake's legacy, not my trauma, just himself. That evening, Elena drove to visit Blake's parents. They'd reached out after the trial, horrified, ashamed, desperate to know their grandson. Harold and Patricia Carter lived in a small condo now. The mansion sold, the money donated to Margaret's family as restitution. They'd lost everything when Blake was convicted. Business associates fled, friends disappeared. Their name was ruined, but they'd gained something too, a grandson, a chance at redemption. Owen knocked on their door. Elena stood behind him, protective but allowing this connection. These were Owen's grandparents, damaged, complicit in their own way, but genuinely remorseful. Patricia opened the door, her face lit up. Owen, come in, sweetheart. I made your favorite cookies. Owen had met them twice before, carefully, with Elena present, building trust slowly. It was working. He liked them. They liked him, maybe even loved him in their limited way. How's school? Harold asked. His voice was gentle, kind, nothing like Blake's cold calculation. Good. I'm doing a project on ocean conservation. Mom's helping. We're studying how marine life survives in harsh conditions. Patricia's eyes met Elena's. A moment of understanding. Survival. Elena had survived. So had Owen. They'd thrived despite Blake's attempts to destroy them. That sounds wonderful, Patricia said softly. The visit lasted 2 hours, awkward at times, tender at others. Progress, slow, incremental, but real. On the drive home, Owen asked, "Do you think they'll ever forgive themselves?" "I don't know. Maybe not. They enabled Blake for years, covered up his crimes, ignored the warning signs. That's hard to forgive, even when you're doing it to yourself." "Do you forgive them?" Elena considered. "I'm working on it. For your sake. They're your family, your connection to your heritage. But forgiveness is a process, not a destination." "Have you forgiven Blake?" "No, probably never will. But I've let go of the anger, let go of the fear, let go of him taking up space in my head. That's not forgiveness. That's just freedom." Owen nodded, wise beyond his years, her boy, her miracle. At home, Grace had made dinner, pasta, salad, Owen's favorite. They ate together, laughed, shared stories from their day, normal, boring, beautiful. After Owen went to bed, Elena sat on the porch, looking at stars, breathing salt air. Grace joined her. "You did good today," Grace said. "Which part?" "All of it. The center opening. The visit with Blake's parents, being a mother, being yourself, all of it. I couldn't have done any of it without you." "Yes, you could have. You're stronger than you realize, always have been. I just gave you a safe place to remember that strength." Elena leaned her head on Grace's shoulder. "Thank you for everything, for saving my life, for helping me raise Owen, for being the mother I needed when mine gave up on me. Your mother reached out, called me yesterday, wants to see you. And Owen, apologize for not believing you about Blake before the wedding, for choosing his money over your safety. Is it too late for that?" "Depends. Do you want a relationship with her? Do you want Owen to know his maternal grandmother?" Elena thought about it. Her mother had failed her. Badly. Chosen society and stability over her daughter's well-being. But she'd also lived with that guilt for 8 years. Maybe deserved a chance to make amends. Maybe, eventually. Not today, but maybe someday. Grace patted her hand. "No rush. Healing takes time." 3 months later, Julia's book hit shelves. The Millionaire Murderer, Blake Carter's Web of Death. It detailed everything. Every crime, every victim, every betrayal. Became an instant bestseller. Julia donated 30% of proceeds to Grace's haven. Blood money, she called it. Might as well use it for good. The book brought more publicity, more interviews, more questions. But Elena handled it, gracefully, professionally. She'd become comfortable telling her story, owning it, using it to help others. One woman wrote, "Your story saved my life. I was planning to stay with my husband, to make it work, to ignore the warning signs. Then I read about you, how you didn't see it and either, how Blake fooled everyone. It made me realize I wasn't stupid. I was targeted. That gave me permission to lives to survive. Thank you." Letters like that kept Elena going, reminded her why the exposure mattered, why the pain was worth sharing. She wasn't just Elena Carter anymore, or Nora Bennett. She was both, and more. A survivor, an advocate, a voice for women who hadn't found theirs yet. Audrey came back into Elena's life. Slowly, coffee first, then lunch, then real friendship. Rebuilt, stronger than before. "I should have fought harder," Audrey said. "Should have dragged you away from that wedding. Should have seen what he was doing to you. I wouldn't have listened. I loved him. Thought I did anyway. You couldn't have stopped it. Still, I'm sorry. I forgive you. I forgave you years ago." Detective Shaw retired, but he consulted for Grace's Haven, trained staff on recognizing abuse patterns, spotting manipulation, building cases properly. "You changed everything," Shaw told Elena, "by coming forward, by testifying. You stopped a serial killer, saved lives. That matters." Margaret's family reached out. "They want to meet. They want to thank me. Will you?" Yes, they deserve closure, deserve to know their daughter's death wasn't gone in vain, that Blake finally paid for what he did to her. The meeting was emotional, tears, hugs, shared grief. Margaret's mother held Elena for long minutes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for getting him. Thank you for justice. I'm sorry I couldn't save her." "You did save her. You made sure her death meant something, made sure Blake couldn't hurt anyone else. That's everything. As Grace's haven grew, Elena expanded services, legal aid, job training, childcare, mental health counseling, a one-stop support system for women rebuilding their lives. Owen volunteered there sometimes, helped in the children's room, played with kids, made them feel safe, like his mother had made him feel safe all those years in hiding. "I want to be a lawyer," Owen announced one night at dinner. "Like Ms. Chen, the prosecutor. I want to put bad people away, protect people who can't protect themselves." Elena's heart swelled. Pride, love, hope. Her son had taken their tragedy and turned it into purpose. Proof that trauma doesn't have to define you, doesn't have to break you, can actually make you stronger if you process it right. On Owen's 13th birthday, they returned to the beach where Grace had found Elena, where everything changed, where life began again. "This place used to scare me," Elena admitted. "The ocean, the water, the memories. But now it feels different, peaceful, like coming home to the place that saved me." "Are you going to swim?" Owen asked. "Watch me." Elena walked into the water, calm today, gentle waves lapping at the shore. She waded deeper, took a breath, dove under. The water closed over her head. For a moment, panic tried to surface. The memory of drowning, of weighted jewelry, of Blake's hands pushing her. But she pushed past it, swam deeper, opened her eyes underwater, saw sunlight filtering through, saw fish, saw beauty. Not death, not terror, just life. She surfaced, gasped, laughed, free. Owen waded in beside her and, "Teach me to body surf?" "Really? Really, I want to be brave like you, want to face what scares me, want to surf." They spent the afternoon in the waves, learning, laughing, falling, getting back up. Grace watched from the shore. Henry barked encouragement. A perfect day. As the sun set, painting the sky orange and pink, Elena stood at the water's edge. Owen beside her, Grace behind them. Complete, content, whole. "The ocean tried to swallow me," Elena said quietly. "Tried to take everything. But it spit me back out, stronger, fiercer, free." And when Owen asks if I'm afraid of the water now, I smile and dive under the next wave. Not anymore. Not anymore. She finally understood that the prison door had been unlocked all along. She'd been her own warden. Fear had kept her trapped even after she'd escaped Blake. But fear was just a feeling, and feelings change. She'd changed. The woman who almost drowned 8 years ago had died in that ocean. The woman who emerged was someone Blake Carter could never touch, never hurt, never diminish, not anymore. Owen took her hand, squeezed. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby, more than anything, more than everything." Grace joined them. 3 generations of survivors, 3 generations of fighters, 3 generations of women who refused to stay down. The waves crashed, the sun set, the day ended, but the story continued. Not Elena's story anymore, or Nora's, just life. Messy, beautiful, real. A teacher at Owen's school had pulled Elena aside the previous week, commented on how Owen glowed, how you could always tell the kids who were truly loved, how whatever Elena had gone through to get here, she'd done something right. That validation meant everything. Owen was loved, was safe, was thriving. That was her victory, her true revenge against Blake. Not his imprisonment, not his ruin, but this, Owen's happiness, Owen's security, Owen's future. Bright, unlimited, free. Grace's Haven served 200 women in its first year. Success stories accumulated. Women escaping, healing, rebuilding, finding strength they didn't know they had. Elena spoke at conferences, universities, shelters, sharing her story, offering hope, proof that survival was possible, that abusers don't win in the end, that justice might be delayed but could still come. Blake remained in prison, maximum security, solitary confinement after threatening other inmates. His appeals were denied, one by one. No possibility of parole, no chance of freedom. Just years stretching ahead, empty, meaningless. Alone. Everything he'd worked for. Everything he'd killed for. Gone. Wasted. Lost. Elena sometimes wondered if he regretted it, if he lay awake at night thinking about the women he'd destroyed, the lives he'd ended, the son he'd never meet. But probably not. Sociopaths don't feel remorse, don't second-guess their choices. They just move on to the next scheme, the next victim, the next crime. Except Blake couldn't move on, couldn't access new victims, couldn't scheme or plan or manipulate. He was trapped. Finally, permanently, the predator caged, the monster contained. That was justice, true justice. Not just punishment, but removal, protection for future potential victims. Blake would never hurt anyone again. 3 years after the trial, Elena met someone. David, a teacher, gentle, kind, patient. They took it slow, coffee, movies, long walks. He knew her history, knew what she'd survived, wasn't scared off by it, wasn't intimidated by her strength. "You're remarkable," David said on their sixth date. "The way you've rebuilt, the way you've turned trauma into purpose. I've never met anyone like you. I'm not special, I just refuse to stay a victim." "That's what makes you special." Owen approved, quietly, cautiously. He didn't want to share his mother, but he also wanted her happy, wanted her to have companionship, love, partnership, the things Blake had pretended to give but never actually delivered. "Do you think you'll marry him?" Owen asked. "Maybe, eventually, if it feels right. But I'm not in a rush. I'm happy as I am, happy with our family, happy with my life. Anything else is just bonus." "Good, because you're enough. Just you. You don't need anyone to complete you." Elena hugged him, her wise, beautiful boy. "Where did you learn to talk like that?" "From you, from watching you survive, from seeing you build a whole life without needing a man to rescue you. You rescued yourself. That's the best lesson you ever taught me." 5 years after the trial, Blake died in prison. Heart attack. Alone in his cell. No one visited. No one mourned. His death was reported in a small article on page 15. Convicted murderer dies in prison. 3 sentences. No photo. Already forgotten. Elena felt nothing when she heard. No relief. No satisfaction. No closure. Blake had already been dead to her for years. Just a ghost, a bad memory, a cautionary tale. She didn't attend the funeral. Didn't need to. That chapter was closed. Finished. Over. Owen asked if he wanted to go, pay respects, see where his biological father was buried. "No," Owen said. "He wasn't my father. Not really. A father loves you, protects you, wants you to thrive. Blake tried to kill me before I was even born. He doesn't deserve my respect, my time, my thoughts. He's just the sperm donor who tried to murder my mom. That's all he'll ever be." Elena could have cried, could have broken down at her son's perfect understanding, his complete rejection of Blake's legacy, his choice to define himself by love, not blood. "You're going to do great things, oh woman, I know it." "I learn much from the best." Grace turned 80. They threw a huge party, 200 guests, everyone Grace had helped over 40 years of nursing and then sheltering women. Everyone she'd touched, everyone she'd saved. "I didn't do this alone," Grace said in her speech. "Each of you did the hard work, the surviving, the healing, the choosing to live instead of just exist. I was just a safe harbor. You were the ships that rebuilt themselves. I'm so proud of every one of you." Elena presented Grace with a plaque. "To Grace Mitchell, who saves lives without asking for credit, who gives everything expecting nothing in return, who taught us that strength comes in many forms, and that survival is an art worth mastering." Grace cried, happy tears, grateful tears. "You've given me more than I ever gave you," she told Elena. "Purpose, family, love, a daughter, a grandson, a reason to keep going even when I wanted to give up. Thank you." 10 years after the trial, Elena opened 3 more Grace's Havens: Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, all funded by her civil suit recovery and private donations and Julia's book proceeds and grants and fundraising. A network of safety, a system of support, a movement. She turned her near-death experience into life-saving resources for hundreds, maybe thousands over the years. That was her legacy. Not Blake's victim, not the wife who almost drowned, but the woman who survived and then helped others survive too. Owen graduated high school, top of his class, full scholarship to Stanford, pre-law, following through on his dream to become a prosecutor, to put dangerous people away, to protect the vulnerable. "I'm so proud of you," Elena said at graduation. "I'm proud of us. Look what we built. Look what we accomplished. We didn't just survive Blake, we beat him. We won, and we made the world better because of it." Elena looked around. Grace's Haven's thriving, Owen successful and happy and kind. Her own peace, her own contentment, her own joy, not just surviving anymore. Living, truly living. She thought back to that night on the yacht. Blake's hands pushing her, the cold ocean swallowing her, the terror, the pain, the certainty she was going to die. And then the fight, the survival, the choice to keep going even when everything seemed impossible. That moment defined her. Not Blake's betrayal, not the push, but her decision to fight, to live, to refuse to be defeated. Everything since then flowed from that choice. The hiding, the reinvention, the gallery, the center, Owen, Grace, Audrey, Julia, David. All of it possible because she'd fought her way to the surface, because she'd survived. Standing on the beach now, Elena walked into the water one more time. Deeper than before, past where she could touch bottom. She floated on her back, looking at stars, feeling the ocean hold her, support her. The same ocean that had tried to kill her now cradled her gently. Full circle. Complete. Owen called from the shore. "You coming back?" "In a minute, just floating. Just being. Just grateful. Grateful for life. For survival, for Grace who found her, for Owen who gave her purpose, for justice finally served, for peace finally found, for freedom finally earned." The ocean tried to swallow her whole. Instead, it spit her back out stronger, fiercer, free. And when Owen asked if she was afraid of the water now, she smiled and dove under the next wave. "Not anymore," she said when she surfaced. "Not anymore." Elena fought for 8 years to tell her truth, to expose Blake, to stop him from hurting anyone else. She didn't give up. She didn't stay silent. She used her voice as a weapon. Now I'm asking you to use yours. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you that survival is possible even when everything seems impossible, hit that like button. Let me know you were here, that you listened, that Elena's story mattered to you. Drop a comment below. Tell me what shocked you most. Tell me what you would have done. Tell me your own story if you feel brave enough to share it. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's scared. Someone who's hiding. Someone who thinks they can't escape. Show them that survival is possible, that justice exists, that they're not alone. And subscribe to this channel because there are more stories like Elena's, more survivors, more fighters, more women who refuse to stay victims. Their stories deserve to be heard, and I'm going to keep telling them. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Elena survived because one person believed her. Be that person for someone else. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next story. Until then, stay strong, stay safe, and remember you're stronger than you know.